Do you struggle to unplug from work, especially on vacation? Does every vacation end up in an argument between you and your spouse? I've been there more times than I care to admit, which is why I created a free checklist to help you unplug this summer. It's called 15 Ways to Effectively Unplug from Work on Vacation, and it's guaranteed to give you some fresh ideas for detaching and enjoying your vacation. Head over to KarenFreeland.com/work free vacation right now and get these 15 secrets. It's totally free and it will get you one step closer to living a more present and fulfilling life. Welcome to Rock Your Reinvention, the show for high-achieving career women who refuse to settle for mediocrity and aren't afraid to take bold action. This is a place where you can authentically show up, where every dream and goal can be validated and achieved. Hi, I'm your host, Karen Freeland, a certified life reinvention coach, speaker, and award-winning author. I'm here to give you the tips, tools, and strategies to help you shift your mindset, build your confidence, and take meaningful actions so you can rock your reinvention. Ready to go from stuck to thriving? Let's go. Hello, how are my favorite reinventors doing today? I hope that you have been putting all of this stuff that you're learning here into practice and that you're starting to see some of those changes happening in your life. And that's exactly why I want to talk about something called the domino effect. If you've read Grab Life by the Dreams, then you'll recall from chapter 3, Commit to Change, how I talk about something called the domino effect. And essentially, what that is when you make one change, it starts to spur and have a chain reaction of other changes in your life. And typically, that means that with each change, it gets a little bit easier, sometimes a lot easier to make. So it's really exciting because the first change is usually the hardest and it feels the biggest and has the most magnitude around it. But as you start to make those changes, you actually end up usually making much bigger changes later and they feel easier. So it's pretty cool. If you've ever experienced it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if this is newer for you, then I want to share a little bit more about what it is, how it works, use some examples from my life to paint this picture. Now, the way the domino effect actually started for me was with a pretty simple exercise that I talk about on page 63 if you have the hard copy. So if you haven't done this exercise, I definitely want to invite you to do that right now. Basically, what you want to do is start by making a list of the changes that you want to make in your life, and then scoring those changes on a scale of 1 to 5. With the scale of, if you label it as a 5, being that it will have the biggest impact on you and your life. And then if you label it a 1, it's going to have a little to no impact on your life. Okay, I had to pause there for a second because my son he came into my office and brought me a mango slushie. And I said, I'm recording a podcast. What are you doing? I'm like, I don't need a slushie. He's like, please, it's mango flavored. And maybe that will banish your burnout. So, for those of you that attended my webinar, Banish Burnout, so cute. So yeah, he just brought me a mango slushie to help banish my burnout. So what a sweetheart. Anyway, back to what I was saying about the domino effect. You want to score all of the changes that you want to make on a scale of 1 to 5. Again, 1 is like, this isn't really going to have that big of an impact. 5 being, this is a major pain point for my life. I have got to address this if I want to have a life with less friction, less stress, more enjoyment, more fulfillment, all that good stuff. And then you can start to look at each one of those changes and say, am I ready to make this change right now? And if not, why? What information am I lacking? What do I need in place to feel more confident to make this change? And then once you look at those changes that are going to have the most impact on your life, you want to start making progress and taking steps towards being able to make that change. So when I first did this, I knew that I wanted out of corporate. And so obviously that scored very high on my list of changes that I wanted to make, but I wasn't quite ready day one to walk in and go, oh, here's my 2 weeks notice, right? There were a lot of fears and a lot of things swirling around in my head. Although it would obviously have a very big impact on my happiness if I could just resign from my job that day. So I gave that a 5. And then I started to list out the reasons that I was scared to make that change. And obviously, financial security was like the number one reason that I was staying in that job. And so I had this question: could I really leave a 6-figure paycheck to follow my dreams? I needed some concrete evidence that yes, I could, or no, I couldn't. And so one of the things that I decided to do was to meet with a financial advisor. And that for me was kind of like the first domino, right? That I needed to knock down to answer that very important question of if I could leave or not. And one of the reasons that I think I felt so nervous about leaving my job is because, well, for starters, I had worked the food industry for most of my young adult life in the beginning and always lived paycheck to paycheck, right? It was always like if something happens and I fall at the back of the house when I'm, dropping the dishes at the sink in the restaurant and I like break an ankle and I'm out of work, I'm screwed because I am not going to be able to make my monthly payment for rent or my car payment. And, those money mindset traps, they live on in you, right? Unless you do the work, that is always subconsciously in the back of your head. So that was definitely one thing that was holding me back. And the second thing was I just had this, I guess, maybe fake number in my head that wasn't even a real number, but I just thought I need way more money than this in the bank to be able to leave my job, or way more in my 401k to be able to be secure in my retirement. So that's why I really needed to get in front of someone who was a financial advisor, right? Somebody who could really look at my whole landscape and tell me whether I could or couldn't. Oh, I know. The other thing I was going to say, the other reason I think I had these poor money mindset issues, right, is a college professor at one point had said to me, you'll always be poor. And because I remember talking about how I didn't have any money and this, and she kind of just made this comment like, well, you'll probably always be poor. And I was like, what? And so I think subconsciously for years, I'd just been trying to prove her wrong. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to show you that I'm not going to be poor. And, we carry a lot of that baggage around too. But once I started to look at that and acknowledge some of that baggage, it was like, I don't have to prove crap to her. Like I'm going to let that go. I'm not going to let that hinder me from following my dreams and living my best life. So anyway, I go to the financial advisor and find out that we are absolutely crushing it. Like we are doing such a good job managing our money. We're leaps and bounds ahead of a lot of people our age. We've always managed our money. We've always saved since the beginning. Like that, my parents always were like, save, save. So I've always participated in 401ks. I've always had savings. I've always played around with certificates of deposit to try to make my money work harder for me. I maxed out any company matches on 401ks. Like we were pretty aggressive on all that stuff. And it paid off because we found out that we actually could retire in our 50s. And so we were like, well, sweet. Okay. This is totally doable for me to leave now. And that decision to meet with a financial planner, I mean, it gave us so much power, right? Because we now knew without a shadow of a doubt that we would be okay. So any old money mindset tendencies that were coming back, trying to sabotage me from leaving and going after my dreams and building my business and writing my books, could be silenced with this concrete evidence. And most people don't go get the evidence. They say, I have this pain point, and they make up a bunch of reasons why they can't address the pain point or do something about it, but they never go get the concrete evidence. And the domino effect allows you to get concrete evidence, make a change, and then make subsequent changes from there. So once we found out that I was, doing really well and we could actually leave our jobs, it was like, great, let's do it. Let's start taking the steps towards making that a reality. Another change that we decided we wanted to make was to move from New Jersey to South Carolina, a place where we actually knew no one. There was not a single soul in Greenville, South Carolina that we knew when we moved here. We've had to completely build our entire ecosystem since arriving. And it's been wonderful. But again, there was a moment in there where I realized, okay, we're okay, but is this even where we want to live? I mean, we were in New Jersey because of my job. My job was in New Jersey, and that's where we decided to settle. But did we actually want to live there? Is this actually the weather we want to be around? Is this actually the hustle and bustle that we want to be around? And it gave us the freedom to really look at where we wanted to go and what we wanted to do, what we wanted our life to look like. And people tell me all the time, oh, Karen, I couldn't possibly move. And I'm like, no, you could move. You choose not to move. You are either allowing yourself to stay stuck and you've built up this whole wall of excuses and reasons why, or you actually don't want to move, in which case you don't have to tell me that you could never do that. You just say, oh, I would never want to move. And that's okay. You don't have to move. These are just obviously examples from my life where, having that financial freedom, then being able to say, well, look, but where do we want to go? How could we even maximize our money more? And at the height of COVID, to sell our house in New Jersey, we cleaned up. We were able to pay off the entire mortgage. Now, I'm not saying this to you for you to feel like, oh my gosh, well, that's not my situation, or I have a mortgage, Karen, so obviously now I can't go after my dreams. No, again, we got to go back to the facts, right? Back to reality. What is your truth, your reality, your values, your whole system? But I share this with you because once we started exploring our options and getting the facts about moving and the ability to pay off the mortgage, it made my business, writing my second book, and all those things so much more feasible because all the pressure was gone for having a mortgage. So then it was like, yeah, no problem. I can pick up my whole family. I've already left my corporate job. Yeah, sure, I can pick up my whole family and move across 10 states or whatever. That's a no big deal. Most people would say, what? Pick up your whole family? That sounds really hard. And that was actually easier than leaving my corporate job. So hopefully this is inspiring you to get the facts around your biggest pain points so that you can start taking steps forward and pushing over those dominoes so that your changes can get easier and easier and easier. And, the list of changes in my life goes on and on and on. I mean, giving up alcohol, stopping TV. We don't have any streaming services. You probably heard me say that before. We have changed so much about the way we live and the things that we put in our body and just the things that we listen to, the music that we listen to. I just feel like I'm not even, in a way, I'm like not even the same person. She was always in there, right? Like I'm the best. Keep becoming better versions of myself. So I shouldn't say I'm not the person I once was. And I don't think I would be where I am today if I weren't the person that I used to be. But the evolution of these dominoes continually being knocked down is just fascinating for me to watch and to see that personal growth happen and to really create and design a life that I genuinely love. And I want that for you. So your challenge, and hopefully you're following along, is to go ahead and make that list of all the changes that you want to make and score them on that scale of 1 to 5. And look, if you're like, Karen, I'm so scared to touch these things that are a 5, even though they would have such a big positive impact on your life, that's okay. Start with some of the low-hanging fruit. Go after the ones that maybe they won't have as much impact, but you know it's a good change for you to make and that your life will be better off, sometimes starting small is the best thing you can do because it strengthens your confidence and you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad, that you can make those other bigger changes. Whatever you do, we're not settling for status quo. You know, there's things in your life that you want to change. There's a way to do it. What could be your first domino? And of course, I would love to hear from you. So if you're in the Facebook group, Successful Working Women Rocking Reinvention, we're going to be having a conversation about this. I'd love you to come weigh in, share what your first domino is going to be, and let us hold you accountable for that. Let us support you and cheer you on as you make this change. That's the whole point of my community. And I have intentionally not built it on LinkedIn because while I love LinkedIn and I share and post on LinkedIn, you do not want to be on there talking about your reinvention until you've already reinvented, right? Like you want to be away from your corporate life. You want to be away from your peers, your bosses, and all those people. And that is why I've been so intentional about creating this community on Facebook. So if you're not in the Facebook group yet, please come join. We would love to see you in there. And as always, until next time, stay fabulous. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're inspired to take action by committing to one of the tips or strategies we talked about in today's episode. And if you want accountability and support, I've got your back. Join my private Facebook group, Successful Working Women Rocking Reinvention, today. You'll find a community of like-minded women waiting to support you, exclusive content, and helpful resources to ensure you succeed. Lastly, if you loved this episode, do me a favor and be sure to leave a review. Together, we can encourage more women to live their purpose. See you next time.